Hey guys, welcome to the second, um, installment or episode or whatever you want to call it, second review on my channel. The first one did reasonably well. I was pretty, it's no crazy numbers, no Mr. Beast type stuff, but I think it got like 30 something views, and I think I got like 8 to 10 subscribers out of it, and then like maybe like 10 likes, something like that. But like, it was hard also because some people couldn't find my video. Um, but yeah, and like I said, I'm still experimenting like hugely. I don't even this one. I'm not reading off a script. I'm just doing off the top of my head. That might change, but like, the filming, the background looks a little different. Like everything is changing, and I'm still just tinkering with it and seeing what works. But today, I wanted to talk about The Goldfinch. Um, that is a movie which came out this year or last year. It's based off a novel of the same name, which I have not read. Um, but I watched this movie, and it's got um, Ansel something, the guy who plays Baby in Baby Driver. Um, and I thought his performance was pretty good. It was um, a little stale sometimes, but his character overall wasn't talkative. Like he's a very strong silent type. Like just you know, oftentimes people would talk to him directly and he just wouldn't respond. Um, but he did a pretty good job. He plays a flawed character. Um, he's a drug addict. Um, and he carries a lot of guilt. Um, well, I have to get into the premise of the movie before I talk about his motivations. So it's about a young boy whose mother is killed in a bombing of a museum, like an art gallery. Um, she's killed. He survives, and basically the reason it's called Goldfinch is because he takes a painting that survived the blast and hides it and keeps it, and it's called the Goldfinch. And so it's kind of like the symbol for, um, it's kind of like the symbol for like why his mom died, so it's like important to him, and he had to save it. But later on in the movie, they realize the characters will tell him, hey, like this bird, this painting of a bird, it's supposed to be for everyone to see, not just for you. You can't hold it, even if it has a special place in your heart, because you're not giving other people a chance to like experience the art, and that's not fair to the artist or the people who died in the bombing or anything. It's so. But you also get where he's coming from. You're like, he's trying to salvage this thing from the wreck. This wreck this bombing that took his mom, took her life. And he sees this thing, and he wants to save it. And he feels that he's the only one that can keep it safe and protect it. Um, so he moves in with this family. I believe it's like a friend's family or something like that. Um, and he moves in with them because his father is not in his life and his mother just died. And there's about the third or fourth of the movie is spent, with the setup, the build up, and then talking about um, or showing like the relationships um, between Theo, which is his name, the main character, and the family that he's adopted into. Um, we see his relationship um, with the mother, um, relationship with the brother of the family and stuff like that, and but eventually legally they have to give him up because um, his father comes back in the picture. His father and his new girlfriend. He claims to be sober now, and he moves in with him. He has to go to Texas, I believe, or no, it might have been New Mexico. Anyway, he goes to this desert, and he lives in this house with his dad and his girlfriend, and he meets this character. Um, I think his name is Boris. So this is maybe this is a one-time thing. Like I said, the experimentation. I definitely think maybe the script shouldn't be like a stick to the script type thing, but maybe writing some of these character names down or locations and stuff would be helpful to be more accurate to the movie. So that's something I'm going to keep in mind for the next one. Um, but yeah, so um, he um, where was I? He meets this character played by Finn Wolfhard, um, and um, and this character is like Ukrainian, and he's been all over the country, or like all over all the world and stuff. And his dad is abusive. His mom's dead, and he's like an alcoholic as a child, as like a 12-year-old or 10-year-old or whatever. He smokes cigarettes. He gets high. He finds pills and stuff. And so this is kind of where he gets his start, Theo, into getting into some of his vices. He smokes cigarettes with the kid. He drinks alcohol with the kid. He takes pills, LSD, um, other pills that he snorts and stuff. Um, and but they build this friendship, this great friendship. They're both in tough places in their life, and they both help each other cope. Um, there's this good line where they're sitting in an empty pool, like on the stairs, and the pool's empty, and they're drinking beers and smoking cigarettes. And Boris says, um, "Yeah, my mom's dead." It was brought up by something. He didn't just say it out of the blue, but he said, "Yeah, my mom's dead." And Theo says, "Mine too." And he says, "Oh, did she die when you were a baby too?" And he was like, "No, it was a bombing." And then he's like, "Life, eh?" And he, gives him a toast. And then that line is brought back again later in the film. Uh, and I just thought that was kind of interesting. I thought it was a kind of a good line to show that sometimes even when you've both been through the same thing or similar things, you can't always relate and put it into words like and also I feel like they both were tired of the sympathy. They're both tired of, "I'm so sorry your mom died." It's not like because we understand the moral obligation that people feel to comfort others when they go through something tragic like that. But at a certain point, it kind of gets tiring. Like, you don't want to hear over and over about this tragedy you went through. You don't want their empty sympathy that doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't bring her back. It doesn't help you. So it kind of also is like, yeah, we both know what it's like, so we don't need to fucking hold each other's hand anymore. We don't need to, oh, your mom's dead and my mom's dead too. Now it kind of cancels out. We don't have to we don't have to play a game where we pretend to be sad for a little bit and then change the subject. Um, but yeah, um, his dad starts drinking again and tries to uh, use Theo's social security card number to steal money out of the account that his mom left him for school. Um, but the mom knew that Theo's father would try to do this, so she made the plan so that the money could only be used for education directly paid to the school and wasn't cash or a check or anything. And so he gets really mad, starts drinking more, and ends up dying in a car crash. So now he's got two dead parents, and um, he goes and he has to, he's living with, or he comes back to his house to see his dad's girlfriend is there, and she's crying, and she says the news, "Oh, your father's dead." And so he decides, "I don't want to stay here with this girl, with this woman. I don't want to stay here. I don't like this town. I don't have any friends. I don't have any family. This sucks." So he's like, "I'm gonna go back to New York, so he can go find somewhere else to live." Or actually, so where he wants to live is something I forgot to mention is during the explosion, he meets an old man who's dying from the explosion, and the old man gives him a ring and says, "Give this to." Uh, he says the name of his company, Hobart and Blackwell. It's an antique dealership. He's Blackwell, and his partner is Hobart, and he wants him to give the ring back to Hobart and like tell him that he's sorry, tell him he loves him or whatever. And he was the one that encourages Theo to take the painting. He's like, "The painting, don't leave the painting." Um, so he also he meets uh, this he met Hobart while he was still living in New York, and he built a bond, a relationship with him. Um, but yeah, so uh, he says, "I'm gonna leave," and then he says, "Boris, please come with me. I'll take my painting. I'll take the dog. I'll take my clothes, and you take your stuff, and then we'll go. We'll go to New York since his dad's abusive, so it's like he doesn't really have anything with him either." But he refuses. He says, "I need more time. I can't do it." And um, then Finn Wolfhard's character kisses Theo's character on the lips and runs away. And so we're meant to think, well, I guess he's gay and he didn't want to tell him and he didn't want to like move all the way to New York without telling him, but he's not ready or whatever. So we're like, all right, and Theo has to do what he has to do, so he leaves. And, Theo goes back to Hobart, lives with him for the rest of his young life until he's about 19, 18, 20, something like that. And he starts like, he's an antique dealer now, but he starts selling stuff like, and selling them as originals or as like genuine pieces. Like, oh, it's made by this person, or oh, it was made in this year. But really, it's more of a Frankenstein's monster of bringing lots of antique things together. So they're actually not worth a lot of money. So he's kind of being dishonest. And he's still got his drug addiction. But he reunites with the family that took him in. Because he sees one of the people on the streets. He finds out that some of their, the father of that family and one of the brothers had died. And again, like the scene in the pool earlier, um, when he meets the mom that took him in, um, you know, he says he's sorry about it, about what's going on, and she says, "I don't need to tell you about loss. Like, what am I gonna do? Cry to you? Like, you already know what it's like to lose someone. Like, you don't need to know what it's like. You don't need to hear me complain because you already get it." Um, but anyway, so he actually one of the sisters, um, he falls he falls for, and becomes engaged to be married with this woman. Um, but he is also in love with someone else, and like really in love. Like, he cares about this girl, he likes her a lot, but the girl that he loves, her name is Pippa, and she was at the museum, and she suffered some injuries at the museum, but survived and lived with Hobart and Blackwell. She was Blackwell's niece, I believe. Um, and so he knows her, and they become great friends. But I think it never really explains their connection because they don't know each other super well. And she like moved away to Texas like a month after him meeting her. Like, so that the connection I don't really buy too much because it's not really set up. But I guess it's also kind of like the painting where it's like symbolic of more, and it's more about his mother's death and stuff. So he cares about this girl, um, but he doesn't know what to do because he's engaged to be. Oh, sorry, excuse me. He's engaged to be married, but he sees his fiance cheating on him. Kissing another guy. And the guy is actually, his name is Tom Cable, and Tom Cable is a very minor character. He has a slight confrontational scene in the beginning when Theo is a child, um, where he doesn't even initiate it. It's a fight that Theo instigates. But Theo is kind of partially to blame, or not Theo, sorry. Tom Cable is partially to blame for his mother dying or for the fact that they were even in the museum. Now, going back to the first thing I said, the reason he carries so much guilt about his mom dying is because um, they were only at the museum gallery to kill time before she met the principal, because she wanted to meet the principal, or the principal wanted to meet her to talk about Theo uh, for disciplinary action. Oh, it turns out that Tom Cable, and this is not a scene that we're shown, but Tom Cable had been smoking a cigarette and had gotten caught and had claimed them to be Theo's. He said, "Oh, these are not mine; these are Theo's." And the principal believed it or whatever, and so he is gonna get in trouble for the cigarettes that he didn't even smoke. Um, and so there's a scene, he like pushes Tom Cable, and he's like, "You're an asshole" or whatever. But then that is pretty much it. And then that's the man that his fiance cheats on him with, which is kind of sad and tragic. Especially, I don't know, he's not a villain either, because we realize like he's just an asshole kid. Like he wasn't really sorry about his mom's death or sorry about getting in trouble, but he's not antagonistic. He's not a bully. He's just a kid who smokes and is mean. Like we don't really know much about him. So it kind of makes it almost worse that like it kind of feels like he's not even like he's causing all this pain, but he's not even doing it on purpose. So you can't even fully like blame him for it. Anyway, I sense this video is becoming a lot more rambly than my last one. And I really wanted to keep it short too, but it's a very like long movie. It's like 2.5 hours long, and it's a pretty dense movie with a lot of you know symbolic shit and figurative shit that you have to wade through to understand it. Um, but yeah, so let's see. We were talking about Theo's guilt. Theo feels guilty about that, and so he confesses his love to Pippa. He says, I know I'm engaged, but she doesn't really love me, but I really love you. And Pippa says that basically she lets him down very easily. She says, it's too hard for me to see you or see New York or visit or, relive it, because then I relive the accident. I see it. And it's tragic. And I think she named like another reason why they wouldn't be good together. Like they were like brothers and sisters, something like that. But like not explicitly. She doesn't say that. But yeah, so it was. Let's see here. What am I trying to say? Um, yeah, and then so she lets him down, and he at his as he's I see, I remember now. He is upset by this, so he's walking down the street and he calls his guy to get more drugs. He's like, where can I get drugs now? Like, he needs to set it up or whatever. And he goes to a bar and he's like, all right, ask for so and so and tell him you need so and so so that you can get your drugs. So he goes to the bar and he's like, oh, does Teresa work here or whatever? And the guy kind of like lets him down, won't let him buy the drugs because it isn't the last name, because I guess he's not credible enough. Because the guy, he dresses all nice, like with a suit and shit, so they probably thought he was a narc. But so he runs into Boris, of all people. He runs into Boris, and they sit down together, they have a drink, they relive their some of their childhood memories, and Boris keeps apologizing. He keeps saying, "I'm so sorry for what happened. I can't forgive myself." And he's like, "No, forget it." And he keeps saying that, and the only thing that the audience thinks is he's apologizing for the kiss, but Theo, didn't fight the kiss. And at that point, we didn't even know his sexuality. I figured maybe he was gay, maybe he was bi, maybe he liked it, whatever. We don't know. But so we didn't know his sexuality at the time. He's at least bisexual, if not straight. But he didn't fight the kiss, so it didn't seem like a big deal. But he keeps apologizing over probably 4 times. And earlier, this character who was mad about Theo selling him stuff that wasn't like fully antique or fully original and lying about it, he says, I know who you are. I know you stole the painting. I know you did this. I know you did that. And since there's no evidence, and since Theo's, obviously not going to just admit to a crime like that, he just denies it and walks away. And the guy bothers him, and, there's this point of tension between him and Hobart or between Theo and Hobart, because the guy's telling Hobart that your protege is, like, dishonest and stuff. But it doesn't turn out to be a huge deal. But, um, Theo keeps, Boris keeps apologizing, and Theo's, so here's the part that I was forgetting. But earlier, this guy who he had sold the faulty stuff to, who was talking about the painting, he said, I know it's real because I know that it's still around because a Florida gang tried to use it as collateral, and it was in the news. He shows it in the newspaper. And he's like, okay, well, it's obviously a fake because I have it. In his head. Obviously, he doesn't say that out loud, but he's like, okay, he doesn't care. He's not threatened by that. And so he's got this warehouse, or this little storage unit or whatever. Not a warehouse, storage unit where he keeps his, where he does drugs, and then where he keeps the painting. He keeps it wrapped up. And apparently, ever since that day, since the kiss, since he moved back to New York, he never opened the painting. He hadn't. He just left it. And he would open it sometimes, but he never opened it, took it out of the newspaper that he had wrapped it up in. And Boris says, I'm sorry about Florida. And he says, I'm sorry about the painting. And he's like, what? And he's like, I took the painting on Thanksgiving. You showed it to me. You were drunk. And you showed it to me, and I took it because I wanted to see it. And I wanted to, whatever. He didn't want to sell it, apparently, but he took the painting. And ever since that day, that's why he said he needed more time. Because he didn't want to tell him outright that he took his painting. He said he needed more time to go to his house and go get the painting and get it figured out. So that's why. So ever since the day, he had gone years without the painting, even though he thought he had it. And so while he tried to save the painting, he ended up putting it at risk because he put it in the hands of Boris, who is a drug dealer at this point in his life. He's a very powerful one. And so they plan this raid. They're gonna go. Pretend to do a drug deal. Like, all right, I'll give you $40,000 and some banknotes, and then you give me the painting. But instead, hey, hands up, I'm just gonna kill you or give me the painting. But it ends up going awry, and there's this one guy who they didn't catch, and then who goes and gets backups. So then now there's 3 armed men coming against 2 unarmed men. Or, well, Theo's unarmed and Boris is armed, but it's 3 against 1, and so then they take his gun. And Boris ends up, beating one in hand-to-hand combat and then shooting another. So Theo is given the opportunity to actually kill a man in cold blood, which he never expresses guilt for again or brings up, but, that's just a thing that happens in the movie, that he shoots someone in the head. And then the guy runs away again, and so he doesn't get the painting back. But then Theo tries to kill himself. And there was this, and again, I really apologize for this video being so long, but it's really a dense film. There's a scene where his mother, or where he's talking to Boris as a child, and he's saying, I always have a dream that someone tells me my mother's still alive, and that she's staying in this hotel, and then I run down to see her, and then she's not there. It's very sad. And so we get how much he misses his mom, how much he feels he has unfinished business, all these things. And so as he's killing himself, and he's passed out, he sees his mother. And we see her face for the first time, because in the flashbacks, you never see her face. There's the same shot of her arm slowly leaving his shoulder as she says, as she walks away from him. That's shown 8 times. But Boris, gets him to throw it up, and then, kind of knocks him out of it, and then they go for the second plan, and they raid they call the police. They basically snitch on this guy who has got all this illegal art. And Boris and Theo have this dialogue. They talk about, hey, the painting's finally free. it's not ours anymore. Like, it's not yours, it's not mine. We don't have it. But now at least it can stay safe, and at least it'll go back to the museum. And then I guess this also, this other guy, or this guy also had a bunch of other paintings that he had stolen paintings that people get to see. And he brought up the point. He said maybe it's destiny or something. Like, maybe even though it caused us a lot of pain to lose the painting, maybe it's for the better, because then all those other paintings might never have been found. So that's something to think about. And yeah, so the last that's near the end, and then the last shot of the film is a video with more detail, where we see the mother's full face and some of the parts we missed of the flashback that we had seen so many times in the museum leading up to the heist. We don't see the actual explosion again, but we see like the mother talking to her son, talking to Theo about paintings. Like, I really like this painting because of this and that. And it's strangely beautiful. It's tragic because we know it's going to happen, and we know that this happy girl and her uncle are, the uncle's going to be dead in a few minutes, and then the girl's never going to be able to play music again, because she wanted to be a composer or a musician, but she couldn't because of she had some kind of brain injury, because of the accident, the bombing. So it's kind of tragic, but it's also kind of beautiful. It reminds me of the scene in Ex Machina, where Ava is changing into the human clothes and stuff, and looking at all the dead versions of herself, like the previous models of robots. I don't know if any of you guys get that reference. I did review it on my Instagram, but I know I did talk about that scene, but I mean, you kind of have to have seen it to understand how tragic and yet beautiful it is at the same time. But anyway, again, I'm just gonna end it here because the video is already longer than I wanted it to be. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time. I just bought a couple new movies, so I'll be reviewing those soon. All right, love you guys. Bye.